The 20 Fun Fact Project. I did it on the split up into sections. The first part will be about the setup of the government. So, for 2,000 years, the Romans more or less had the same government system, but the Republic didn't start until around 500 BC, and there's the more specific date would probably be around 509 BC at least, because that's when it was expected that the Romans overthrew their Etruscan kings, or whatever you want to call them. They held a revolution, they managed to free themselves, so they became their... The When the Roman Republic was formed, there's this big government position called the consuls. There was always two of them, and they decided certain things. Romans were sexist back in the day too, so women could not be part of the consul, so... Anyways, the power that the consul did have, they could control the army, they decided whether or not they wanted to start a war, they decided some laws and how... The consul soon realized that having two brains to govern an entire city was a bad idea, so they got advice from the Roman Senate, a government position formed around the same time the consul. And another sort of bad part of the government, along with their sort of like sexist nature, was that for a short period of time, it only consisted of wealthy people, and this brought up a couple concerns that the poor people would feel they weren't being represented enough. So they formed a new government position called tribunes, and they spoke for the... And the tribunes eventually grew like with higher authority, and eventually they were able to veto measures that were being passed. And for clarification, the tribunes weren't elected by the poor people, but elected by an assembly, which I think was made of the citizens of Rome, who could only be adults and men. So, like the consuls, women could not be. There are other government positions, and you'd call like, uh, you'd call like the jobs or the overarching little thing, the magistrates. It's sort of clear if you see a table, but it translates into consul in Latin, which isn't the same as the consul job. It's just translated the same way, so that's sort of confusing. So you can see that the magistrate positions, what government positions they could have, were censors, praetors, interrex, and quaestors. Interrex is sort of new, I think, for some people. And what happened was, when a king died and there was another king to be like qualified, um, there would need to be someone to fill in during that time, and that's who the interrex were. They only served 5 days usually, just to fill in time and make sure that the government was being ran by someone. And obviously, down the road, there would be a real king, not just consuls and... So, after sort of religiously searching up what a citizen army was, I actually couldn't find anything specific about it. But I did find out that all the Roman soldiers were made up of citizens. And this is sort of like a leadway into something else. What happened was the Romans first started off as like a small military force made up of a citizen militia. So I guess at first they weren't such a big force, but they soon sort of grew into one of the world's biggest strongholds back in the day with the big army. Roman soldiers signed up to fight for 20 years, usually being rewarded with money and land. And that's if you were a citizen, but you could still sign up for the army if you weren't a citizen. And a Roman non-citizen would sign up as an auxiliary. These would be Roman soldiers who sign up for 25 years just to get a Roman citizenship, which had its benefits, but it's really up to you whether it was really up to that person whether or not it was worth it. And to some people, I guess it was. The picture is a diploma that a Roman soldier auxiliary, I guess, would get upon being granted Roman citizenship. And in the last slide, there's a picture as well. So, sort of obvious that Rome did want to get a bunch of land, even back in the day after they overthrew the Etruscans. So, there are certain factors that sort of increase the credibility of Rome. First off, the fact that they're able to overthrow the Etruscans in the first place. And there are other small things, like for example, their treaty with Carthage, that was a big influence of Rome's authority. And with no major force to oppose them, the Romans just wanted to clear everything. So they cleared any less resistance that was available to their support. They stormed the town of Rhegium, which was held by Mamertine rebels, which was around 271 BC. They forced the Bruttian tribes to surrender, crushed the last remnants of Samnite resistance, and finally in 267 BC, a campaign against the tribe of the Salentines in the very heel of Italy handed Rome the important harbor of Brundisium. In the picture you could see that was the general area of where Brundisium was. There's defensive walls and the water. In gaining control of the south, Rome possessed valuable forest country of the tribes and wealthy Greek cities which undertook to supply Rome with ships and crews in the future. And lastly, the land they obtained was used in various ways, example being Ager Romanus, which translates into Roman land. Inhabitants of these old settled areas held full Roman citizens. The picture is a picture of Civis Romanus, Roman citizens gathered around in some fancy little courtyard. So, you could read it yourself. Here it is. You should pause the video, because I'm not pausing for you. And this is a glossary of Roman terms I use throughout. I mean Latin terms, I don't know why I said Roman terms. And this is a bibliography, which took a lot longer than this other. And that's it. Thanks for watching.